You're listening to Terry Talks, where we discuss all things taboo, uncovering art industry nonsense, grounding you in confidence and leadership to run an arts business with unwavering power and grit.
What's up, and welcome back to another episode of Terry Talks. Today I have an incredible artist who I have been watching for so long, through the gram, of course, who I reached out to and was so excited when she said that she wanted to join me on Terry Talks. Before we get into it and before we invite her on, a couple of cool, I definitely feel like a little bit of 2025 is still lingering. So I'm going to need a February 1st reset. I'm already asking for it. A lot of us are still kind of easing into the new year or the first quarter of the year. And I just don't want to put any pressure on myself to kind of do the most. I am really focusing on my mental health. I'm focusing on my physical health the most right now. I've got some things that I'm dealing with, but I am a really, really thorough person when it comes to my health. I am someone who goes to the doctor consistently and likes to be in tip-top shape as you get older, as you should be going to the doctor. So if you haven't been to the dentist, this is your reminder. If you haven't had a physical, this is your reminder. And if you haven't gone to the gyno, this is definitely your reminder to do all of those things. Take your vitamins, take your Flintstone vitamins if you're old enough to understand that reference. So today's episode is definitely an interesting one. When I first met with Kandy and we had our Zoom call, we were just, organically having a regular conversation about art and just kind of getting into her background and things that she's accomplished in her career. 25 years ago, she is still doing amazing things, and it has taken quite some time to build up to where she is. And I think that there's this unrealistic expectation that you all of a sudden are found, or you are at the right place at the right time, and all of a sudden it just happens for you. I think that there are three classes of advice that I'm seeing over and over again in the art industry. The first thing is that when people say things like, oh, this is what it takes to be a world-class artist. Number one is networking, partying your ass off, being outside, being in these streets, and then they stop there. They're like, you've got to network, you've got to do this. The second thing is that it's all strategy. And if you do this strategy, you're going to be great. If you hit the algorithm lottery, everything's going to work out for you. Sales are going to come flying in. And then the third class of terrible advice would be that it's just all about luck. And these are ancient, well, not strategy as much, but these are just like your ancient classes of advice that are also vaguely explained. Now, Terry Talks is all about, pulling back the curtains and just sharing all of the things so that you can get closer to your dreams and you can get closer to your goals without having to second guess every single step of the way. Kandy's going to really help us to pull back that curtain and tell us her story on networking and meeting the right people and just doing things with patience. She really hones in on that idea that if we're impatient, that we end up spreading ourselves across the board, and it's like you're just throwing darts at nothing. I know that word networking, we're gonna really break that down today, but the word networking has this connotation of just being outside, going to every single opening, talking to every single person in the room, and you'll just have a conversation and something will automatically happen. And that's just not the way this shit goes down. It takes so much longer for you to get that momentum of having the community, the support system, the people who know people. And Kandy describes that journey. So let's bring her in and hope you enjoy the episode. Before we bring Miss Kandy Lopez onto the show, I wanted to just give you a little bit of her background because she pretty much does it all. She has her studio practice, she has her shows, she has her gallery representation, she also is a professor. She's a multidisciplinary artist whose work explores cultural identity, representation, and power through fiber painting, portraiture, and mixed media. Born in Jersey to Dominican parents, her practice is shaped by navigating multiple cultural landscapes and lived realities. She holds a BFA in painting, a BS in marketing and management from the University of South Florida, and earned her MFA in painting from Florida Atlantic University in 2014. With a background spanning both fine art and business, Kandy brings thoughtful, strategic lens to her material practice and engagement in arts institutions. She is currently an associate professor in the Department of Communications, Media, and Arts at Nova Southeastern University, mouthful, where she integrates critical theory and hands-on studio practice. She is very, very real with her students. And with all of that wrapped into one, I mean, you can't ask for more of a triple threat. So when it comes to all the shows, the classes that she's teaching, the studio practice, and how many hours she really needs to be in there, the motherhood, all of it is just pretty incredible. So enjoy the episode, babes. Kandy, you're here. Kandy Lopez is here, tuning in from Florida. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us today, because there's a lot that we need to fucking talk about. And we're gonna make sure that this is an impactful episode, but also that, you know, as per Terry Talks, that we are breaking down and bringing up the truth from how to really and truly embody what it means to be a successful artist, whatever that means to anyone who's listening right now. But also, there are a lot of vague terms out here in these streets, and we want to make sure that there's no artist left behind. That's what I say. A little bit about you, where you're based, what you're working on. Just give us a little bit.
Thank you for having me. This is exciting. I like these kinds of conversations, the backside of things,
Yep.
especially as an educator. So kids need to know.
Yes.
My name is Kandy G. Lopez. I live in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, grew up in Miami, was raised in New Jersey. I would consider myself a portrait maker. So I like creating portraits out of many different materials. But what's really popular right now is fiber. So my yarn work and my thread work is something that people really gravitate towards, especially now.
Large
But
scale. Large scale.
at large scale,
You
I
don't
also
know, now you know.
I do stained glass as well. That's something that I've been playing with now. I just bought myself my first glass fusing kiln, so I'm excited about that. And a lot of collaging and photography. I just like to play. Like I get bored really quickly.
And I'm sure everyone's like, yes, nodding right now. If you're listening, you're probably nodding. I'm get bored very quickly. I mean, it's weird because there are people who will work on, like, you know, the masters. It's like, we don't hear about the masters getting bored and playing. We hear about Van Gogh just like working on one thing for 30 years.
I don't have the patience for that. I'm just like, there's too many people on this earth that I want to try to reproduce. And I'm just like, I need to get to that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I was the same way. I mean, I definitely bounced around, but I felt like all the pieces I was working on at the same time were all around the same stages. I never left anything behind, really. Nothing was ever like neglected, highly neglected, unless we were fighting. But beyond that, I had like everything was visible. You know, in the studio, you have everything. You got to keep it up, because if you put it away, then it's really,
that's it. You're not gonna see it for real, for real. Yeah, I have three pieces right now that are like in midway.
just
Yeah, they're in different stages, but they're visible for me to see.
yeah, you're out. And then, like, how do you choose? What are you going to walk into today?
Exactly. So pressure, pretty much. So I'm home, and I'm working on like this little one that's a little bit more personal, and then I have two at the studio on campus. And it depends. Like, do I feel like dealing with the face, or do I feel like finishing this body?
Yeah. Did I have my coffee? Do I have
Right.
those ready? You know, it's like,
Is my brain prepared to make another nostril, or like, do I want to tackle a neck?
damn, that is the title of this episode, by the way. That is so fucking real. It's not funny. Do I want to work on a finger?
Yes. Do I want to do hands today? No.
Hands. It's so bad. Oh my God. So bad. And the people who like don't even like doing hands are usually pretty good at them. But tell us a little bit about your day to day. So you're a professor, you mentioned that you have your studio on campus. Tell everybody what that looks like.
So like my schedule on a typical day. So I wake up at 6:40-ish, get my kids ready to go to school, drop them off by like 7:40, go get some coffee or something in the morning if I haven't made like a protein shake.
Yep.
Um, Go to school. So I teach Tuesday, Thursdays mornings. So by the time I get to school, it's like 8. So I have about an hour and a half to either check my emails and put things in order or go into my studio and work for an hour, which it depends on the day. So some days I'm just like, I'm just too tired to like even deal with trying to create an eyeball. I'd rather just do admin stuff.
Yeah.
And other days I'm like, oh, I got to finish this because I'm thinking about this other piece. So then I teach.
What are you
And
doing right now?
I am teaching methods and materials, which is a class where we experiment with a lot of different things. Like I really enjoy that class because it gets the students out of their comfort zone, which
This is undergraduate.
yeah, undergrad. It's a bachelor's program. I teach at Nova Southeastern University. And then the afternoons, if I don't have meetings, I'm in my studio until 3:34.
And your studio is on campus, like you
The
said
studio's on
before.
campus, which is great. One of the pluses of being a professor.
Yes.
Is space and also equipment. So that's always nice. We have like a printing press, we have the kiln. Now I got a glass kiln for myself, but I can like station it in school because they have the ventilation system. So it works well for my schedule and what I do. And then I go to the
Talk
gym.
about those perks. I have never heard it really an art professor talk about having a studio space. I mean, maybe their living room is their studio space. I have no idea, but like it's something you could negotiate.
Yes, it should be like just like a scientist has their lab.
Right.
Hey, I
Right.
need a studio.
Right. And that's why I wanted to make sure that we definitely touched on that because I think that everyone is sometimes being an artist can be very linear thinking in terms of like how to get to X, Y, and Z, and especially with like Instagram and especially with all the advice that's out there or non-advice or vague advice. That's the shit that usually gets me is any kind of vague advice because that never helped me. Like it frustrated me a lot of the time when I would like try to do my research. And I would, be watching a YouTube video or I'd be on Instagram and a coach would say this or an artist would say this. And it's like, it didn't translate the way that
like how?
it didn't
Say,
translate.
explain it.
Right. How do you have money right now?
To be able to do the thing.
Do you have an inheritance? Do you have a partner? Do you have, 2 incomes, right? You're a professor by choice, right? And maybe in the beginning, it didn't start by choice. I was an art teacher for over a decade. That was something I wanted. I loved.
Yeah, I love teaching.
Yeah.
Like
It's dope. I mean, I loved co-creating with my students. And I didn't go to college. I went to college for art education. So it was my primary like passion, mission, all that stuff. I couldn't stand kids, coming out of high school and being like, I hated my elementary school teacher. Like it killed my soul.
I hear that a lot. My art teacher was so weird. And I was like, what is happening with these art teachers out there? Like, what?
I loved mine.
Me too.
She was a working Brooklyn. I remember her. She'd just walk in and be like, guys, we're going to experiment with gouache today. And I was like,
what is that?
She was like, she like brought these like crusty ass like tubes from, and I remember being like, the school didn't, and she was like, no, these, you don't get, you know what I mean? And she was like really hip and cool. And like, I could tell she was very much an artist and not so much an art teacher, but she was like, we're going to just make shit today. And we were all just like good students. Thank God. Thank God we were the city kid. He's the one who made me want to be an art teacher. And like, I'm like, yo, you could be cool and chill and like still artsy and like teach.
That's the thing. Yeah.
Money. So like, people wonder sometimes like today, like, oh, how does she, have this nice car or have these, things and blah, blah. Well, yeah, man, I was fucking super rich when I was teaching. And I got real stable and I made sure that I kind of layered things, to make sure that I was set up for success in some way. So when I hear you say professor and like you have your studio, like, there's always a means to an end to another means, you know what I mean? And so I think that's a great perk that you're able to do that. All right, let's get into it. So today we're going to talk about networking because I think that obviously with your caliber of of success, and you have representation now. And how many years have you have representation, and with who again?
2.5 years. We're going on our third year, and with ACA Galleries in New York.
And so, we'll backtrack from that, but I just wanted to lay sort of the foundation for the conversation. But so, and then I think a huge part of me wanting to have this conversation, especially after we spoke, because it was such a big part of like, who knows who and how do you meet this person? And it's like, the mystery is threefold. And I wrote this down in my notes. I actually wrote down the mystery of networking. Party and be outside. 2, talk to every single person in the room. And 3, be everywhere.
Oh my God.
And that's a lot. And imagine for a fucking introvert, like I want to I'm not an introvert.
It's really hard.
Throw up if I read that on an Instagram post. Like, let's just say a carousel that was like, here's how to network, be out every night, go to every Chelsea gallery opening and get wasted and talk to everyone. Yeah. Who the fuck can do that? What if you're a mom? First of all, I'm not a mom. I don't have kids. I don't have a dog. I don't have a man. And I still don't want to fucking do that.
It's exhausting, man.
It's exhausting. And honestly, like, I do have to push myself more to go to openings. You know what I mean? It is so intentional. Which opening?
Correct.
If I know who's exactly going to be there. And I once went to a fucking opening and I thought that the artist was going to be there, and I DM'd her and I was like, where the fuck are you?
I got that too. And I'm like, I'm not there, babe.
She was like my husband. It was like a huge opening at the Hole and on Bowery. And she was like, my husband has the stomach bug and I can't go anywhere right now. And she was like, send me photos, blah, blah. This was Tara Weissman, who is fucking so dope. And I was like, oh my God, I wanted to talk to you and blah, blah. But anyway, like, that's the level of intentionality I can do it at this point, because it's
a lot. There's a lot of openings.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, you could show up and you could browse, like and you should be in the know and of the landscape of what's happening. But also, like, I can't afford to like really go to a bunch of these and not know who I'm going to want to speak to or who's who. I'm like very quick when I walk into an opening.
Yeah. I have to like know who the person is or know what the work is in there. Or if I'm walking and I have time, if I'm on vacation and I'm like, oh, that's interesting, let's pop in here.
Yes.
If my husband's like, okay, I guess it looks kind of interesting, then we go in. But that doesn't happen often.
I'm pretty targeted with it.
Yeah.
I didn't used to be that way. And I think this is a good conversation, because I used to be outside wanting to do it a little bit more. And then I was kind of annoyed with all the other people who would show up. And I'm like, no, I can't focus.
Yeah, it's just too
focus on, like, usually I'm introducing myself to the curator if I could find that person, and the gallery owner, if they happen to be there. And sometimes on these small openings, they are there.
Yeah.
And the artist.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be, if it's a group show, it's usually one specific artist that I'm going to like, I want to connect with. So let's start with this question for you. What are the most effective ways that you've found to build connections early on in the art world, especially when you were more of an emerging artist? Where were you focusing more of your energy on?
I've always been like a studio head, so I've always been in the studio making, but I knew that I needed my work to be out there because I wanted people to feel how I felt when I've seen a piece that I resonated with, that looked like what I looked like. And there wasn't a lot of that. Like you hear all the time. Like I read so many stories and there's so many artists of color that say the same thing. And now it's like there's so much representation in certain places.
Yeah.
Where you can see people that look like you. But back then it was like, I just wanted to make and show. And my focus was on creating the best work that I could create and then figuring out a way where I can get a show. And that started like undergrad. So like I had friends and they're like, oh, we have this gallery here. We should try to like put a proposal together to figure that out. And I also had a business background, so I have my BS in marketing and management, because I was also thinking, I know that I want to be in the art world. I just don't know if that means that I'm going to be painting or if I'm going to be making anything. I just know that I want to be in the art world in some capacity. And I know that admin is important for that stuff. So I might as well like learn the terminology.
Yeah. I've only, it's funny because I've only heard of one other artist actually she went back to school, opened up a gallery, and then was like, fuck, I need to go back to school to like do 2 or 3 classes, maybe.
I think it's important, even like with my students, I tell them all the time, I'm like, take speech, at least take speech so that you know how to talk about your work and you're not like, and people can't hear you.
Yeah.
Like you need
That's
to
hard.
be able to, and I know it sounds
And-
cringy, but you got to market yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, people think that even that word marketing means like car sales or
You're like,
like,
right, you're not selling yourself.
no one's asking you to sound like a fucking cartoon. You know what I mean? Like no one's telling you to hold up a car sign and start spinning it and whatever else, but there's got to be some level of like
You need to
conviction when it comes to speaking,
have some kind of a conversation. Like, don't just be like, oh yeah, I'm an artist, and then that's the end of the conversation. Oh, great.
It doesn't come second nature to you. I think
Yeah.
that's the main issue, is that there's a lot of artists out there. And we can talk about the stereotypical artist who's like, kind of on the loner side, and they kind of like just want to do their own thing, and they don't really want to be out there, and they're not loud, but like they just make this assumption from that it's, you're either in the studio alone doing your thing, being free and crazy and messy, or you're out here selling like a car sale. Like there is a happy medium, you know what I mean? And it's that part is about being more just like yourself and like 3 notches up. But it's
Right.
this, there's no practice that's happening in between that. And same thing with the writing skill.
Same. Oh my God. So
Same
many.
thing with writing skill. We hate writing. Okay, but you could hate something and you still got to, it's not going to disappear.
It's not just that either. It's like you should have friends. Like you should have friends that are good at certain things that you're not good at.
Right.
Don't be the best out of the friend group. Like you have to have a friend that's smarter, right?
Yeah. I fucking love my smart friends. I sit there and I'm like, tell me more about lizards.
Yeah. And they know, and they also like know people.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
feel like that's important to just like be in a group and be able to speak to people. And there might be people that you don't vibe with. Cool. You don't have to vibe with that person, but you could be cordial and say hello,
Even my clients, many of my clients have just naturally gravitated towards each other and have done shows together and then like from different states, you know what I mean? And now like talk to each other about like openings or like residencies, like, oh, did you see this?
Yeah, that's so important too, is talking.
But it's interesting that you kind of realized your like community aspect in college, and that's actually been the most common theme I've heard with successful, either they're gallerists or successful artists who have stuck with like their people from kind of jump, like where it was like a jump off point. I hear that a lot about Pratt kids in Brooklyn. They kind of like stick together and like they're in each other's shows, they're at each other's openings, they're doing studio visits for each other, like all that shit.
You just know like who is really serious about making. Like if I'm in the studio at 12 o'clock at night and there's one other person that's in the studio at 12 o'clock at night and we see each other every day, hey, who are you? Hey, come on over here. What you working on? And then you start building some kind of relationship there where if it's not you, it'll be them, maybe. Or it's just like you just want somebody to help you get some kind of critique. Like I need critique. Everybody needs critique.
So we're missing that component once you get into an at-home studio. Or you
Who's looking at your work? You don't got no art friends to be like, Kandy, what the hell are you doing?
Or you've been working on this shit for way too fucking long.
Yeah,
or you're sitting on that piece.
I know that happened. That's how the pieces turned to being suspended, because of when I first started it, I was thinking of them as like rugs on the floor. Ooh, and I went into residency with 2 of my grad friends who are also moms. And I'm like working on the thing and it was new for me. And they were like, Kandy, why the hell is this on the floor? And I'm like, oh, because it's a political statement and blah, blah, blah. And this was like my first time that I'm incorporating color. And they're like, you're not putting that on the floor. Like, why would you do that? Like, put it on the walls. And I'm like, no, because then you're thinking about hanging and they're like, you don't have to use that word, use suspension. And I'm like, duh. But I wouldn't have gotten there
Yeah.
without having people that are like not afraid to speak to me about my work. And like the way you receive information is also important. Like, don't, I know that art can be personal, but like feedback, you could take it or leave it, but like listen in a way where you analyze what the hell it is that you're doing.
Yeah. I think that, especially artists who did not go for their BFA or MFA, regardless, there's still, there's, a lack of like that feedback, a lack of like
Yeah.
yearning for it too. I feel like when you're left without it for so long, you forget you need it.
Yeah.
That's what happens when like people are like, oh, I need to go write to this person. I need to send this email. And then they're like, oh, but I hate writing. It's like, well, you haven't done it in so long. You don't have your shit ready, or you haven't like perfected your bio, or you haven't like, we just kind of do it when we need it. And I think that that's such a fucking red flag, because you're avoiding all the things that you need to become that caliber of artist, the
Right.
ones that people cannot fucking ignore. And so when it comes to that feedback through your community and through that networking process, that's part of, I want to highlight that for people who are listening. That is part of like step one, relationship building. You are not asking them for something. You are asking them to do something with you.
Mhm.
And I think that that's like, we don't always have to fucking ask people to like do shit for us. You know what I mean? Like we could do it together. I could come over, you could come over, you know what I mean? Asking someone to come into your studio without any kind of like alternative
End result, right? Just come and like, let's talk, let's eat.
Yeah.
This is what you're surrounded by, the artwork. They're gonna talk about it.
So
Hopefully.
who don't, yeah. Or you could just stare at it and fucking talk shit, you know what I mean? And then after walking out, oh, you should maybe put a little red in that.
That's right. That's hurting my eyes. Let's try to.
All right, see. I think that that's also number one, is like, yeah, inviting people into your studio, into your space, being like having those open doors, especially if you're working in solitude. And I'm finding that in New York, people have their at-home studios. They can't afford like a separate studio or whatever it is. And they think, listen, if it's your at-home studio and you don't want to invite people over, there is no solution to that.
Right.
The solution is suck it up. This is your work of home and your place of work, and it is what it is. You're still trying to do something. So
right.
You can't really like, I have a client who just moved into a 2-bedroom, and she's just like elated because she finally has like a separate, it's not her living room. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Like
it's a place.
Yeah, so she started inviting people, and she's like, yeah, so they have to walk through the fucking kitchen. What do you want from me?
Whatever it is, what it is. Like, I still work in my kitchen table. I don't have a room in my house where I work. This is what do you call it? The sunroom?
Yeah.
Dining room.
What feels good, and you can have multiple spaces. I mean, my dad is someone who lives in a very small 1-bedroom with his wife. I mean, we're talking New York City small. And he's a Latin jazz musician. And one thing is, when he remarried, is he had to make sure that his second wife was not going to have an issue with the instruments being all over, because he doesn't want to put them away, because if his schedule is so weak, if at 1 a.m. he's got a fucking
inspiration. Right. Nah.
He's like, no. This is my livelihood. I travel the world to do this. And if I need to practice at 1 a.m. because I'm jet lag, or because I worked at the club the night before, whatever it is, I got to just like have all of them out. So he has one couch dedicated.
That's it.
They have like all these cushions, like they're like all cushioned, and like, there's like his reeds are all laid out. And I used to be like, you're such a slob, Dad. And then I realized once I got my own studio, my brushes had to be out.
All right.
Shit had to be left the way I walked in, because
that's the thing too. When you have kids, it's like, I have my yarns and my threads on half of the kitchen table, like the dining room table, in case the family wants to eat. They can eat on the other side of the dining room table, but don't touch mom's stuff. Don't come over here. And they still do. They don't care. My daughter's like, I want to make a piece. And then she'll just like take one of my needles, with one of the threads and like fucking make a knot that I can't take out. So now we're cutting things and now you're wasting my material.
Right. Baby
But
girl, you know how much this thread costs?
she don't care. She's just like, look what I made, mom.
No,
It's like,
yeah.
babe,
It's just yarn from Michael's. Like, it's just like dollar yarn, right?
whatever.
So let's move on to this second question. Can you share a pivotal moment when someone in your network opened a door to a new opportunity? Maybe it was a residency, a show, or like you need to speak to this person.
I feel like it always happens with teachers. I think my teachers have always pushed us to get into shows, to compete, even when we didn't want to compete. Like they would just submit our stuff, and then all of a sudden you get a gold key for Scholastic, like things that we number one didn't know and didn't care for either,
Right.
but they like saw the potential. So like the first time I sold a piece was in middle school. And then the second time I sold a piece was in high school. And then my first big scholarship was because of my teacher pushing me to submit to this Latino Art Bee is what it was called. And I didn't want to make a piece for that. And he's like, Kandy, you're Latin. You got to submit a piece because you're good. And blah, blah. And I'm just like, please, I don't want to do this thing. And because of that, I got like a huge scholarship to go to MICA.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't stay there, but it was still like my first time leaving home, figuring out budgeting. How am I going to pay for my supplies? How am I going to pay to eat? Like all of that. Like that whole year was being away from home. Like my mom's not there to take me nowhere. So I got to take a train, figure out how I'm going to get groceries, like the whole thing at 18, 19 years old. And another opportunity popped up because another teacher from grad school who was working with this guy who I still work with him still today. And he has given me so many opportunities, and because of him networking with someone else, and then that person showed my work to someone else, which was an art agent, and then that person showed my work to the gallery that I'm in now.
Yes.
It's just like, and another thing too that I learned in business school is like, please submit things on time.
Yes.
Somebody's asking you for images, submit the damn images. Don't wait 2 weeks later, submit the stuff, then you forget. And then it's like, oh, they don't want to be, they're not serious. They don't want to be part of this show. Right. I'm just going to ask X, Y, and Z whose work is not as strong, but they know how to turn things in on time.
Well, I think that was, that's something that I heard when you were like, well, this person saw me doing this, and then we had a conversation, and this professor then spoke about me to, the thing is they saw you doing the thing. And so you were someone that could not be ignored. And I think that's a huge part of it. When you're in the studio all the time, you can't be ignored, right? Like when you're making art and you're showing it and you're talking about it, and it's like that's what you're building that rapport with people as someone who's fucking serious.
Yeah. I've always been militant about my stuff.
Yeah. But like also, if I have a conversation with a professor and they're like, hey, I think you should reach out. Here's the email, or here's where they're going to be, or here's the opening. And you just decide, I don't want to go. I don't want to email them. I'm too tired. I forgot to email them. Like that conversation is kind of a dead end.
And I also think about like, if my professor is taking me this seriously where they want me to contact this person and I don't contact this person, and then they find out that I didn't contact the person because I'm also giving two shoe.
Yeah, they're not going to talk to you about any new moves.
No, it'll be like, she's not serious about her stuff. No,
right.
Thank you.
Right. And it's the same thing with me. Like if I have a client who's just like refusing to follow advice or refusing to connect with one person or, DM somebody or follow up with a potential buyer, like then you can't expect people to take you seriously. And now you've basically limited that networking potential.
I also think like a lot of people overthink. Mm-hmm. And I see this all the time with students. And I used to be like this too. It's like, oh, nobody really wants to see this stuff. So like, I'm not even gonna, or the deadline passed, so I'm not even gonna ask. Or, it's always like a
feedback, too busy, or I'm gonna
not confident. You're not confident in your stuff at all. Like it doesn't hurt to ask, even if you think you're gonna sound stupid. Like even if they respond saying, girl, the deadline passed already, why are you reaching out? You reached out.
Yeah. But they'll also remember that you fucking tried.
Right, exactly.
that person that sent me that email that was annoying, who misheard that, I mean, it is what it is, but I do think that this tenacity this hungriness has to be there to follow through. And when we talk about not practicing, the writing skills and not practicing speaking skills and, not getting on podcasts or not even asking those to be involved in those things, you're technically just like status quo. You're actually not really standing out from the rest of the other people who are trying to do that shit.
Right.
And I notice a lot of that in more with, emerging artists and even mid-career artists who kind of think they got it. Like, I'm fine. I'm making the sales, or I'm doing, like, I'm coasting. But it's like, do you want a career that's about to flatline? I mean, I don't know, because this shit, you're the only person that makes your career sustainable. Like,
yeah,
people on the outside are not they're not going to be like, keep going. Chugga, like, you have to make these waves for yourself. So I think that's important. Now, again, if you didn't go to school, how can we translate that, you being pushed by your professors? Well, again, it's being surrounded by those people who are high achievers, right? So I'm trying to think, you're in the studio, maybe there's someone down the hall who's been fucking, making wooden chairs, in your building, and you're like, knock, 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 knock. Hey, what's up, neighbor? I think, like, I'm trying to make this as tangible for our listeners as possible, because I think it's really hard with all the noise of, like, it's all about strategy now. And it's all about that vague word networking or like this, but those micro actions are the networking.
Yeah. And sometimes, like, I don't really feel like I push for that either. I like when things just happen naturally. Like, if somebody approaches me and I know that they're a collector and they're just like, oh, I like your work, it's like, okay, that's great. But I'm not like, oh, you like my work? I have a PDF and I have this and I have that. And not that anything's wrong with that, because we all got to eat. But I'm also like, if you like my work enough to buy my work,
you're going to do it anyway.
Right. So I shouldn't. And that's the part where, like, artists think that you're selling yourself in that way. But I'm also privileged in the fact that I have a full-time job.
Yes.
So I don't need to do that.
Right. I also think that if you chose to drop that job, you'd be fine. However, I think your networking would be limited. And so when I see other people who, maybe have a part-time job and are making art, full-time, and I don't think there's part-time art, but I mean, I think that, you have to figure out where then, like, how to talk about your artwork almost all the time in just like a casual way, not like an afterthought, right? So
we have that assignment for my students too. Like, by the time they graduate, you have an elevator pitch. So we're going to be in an elevator. I'm going to say, oh, hi, how's your day? Blah, blah, blah. So what do you do? Yeah. You got until we get to the 3rd floor to tell me what you do.
Yes.
And to get me interested, because this is what happens when you go out in the world and you're trying to talk to people. They don't have time for that shit. What do you do? Straight up.
Yes. Where can I find you?
Where's the images of your work?
Yeah. Oh, Instagram? Here. Let me just have you. Yeah, let's just exchange Instagrams. To me, that's soft selling. To me, that's working. So when you talk about, like, a collector, maybe they're walking past your classroom or whatever it is, and they say hi, or, maybe it's a prospective student who's, like, thinking about taking your class, whatever it is, right? And you open that door to have that conversation, or someone stops by your studio and they could buy, they could not buy, and they're not going to buy in front of your face unless they're walking in with the intention of, like, I've got 10,000 prop, right? But that's a luck thing. So we're going to move on from luck, but we're going to say that, like, hey, you know what? Actually, I got a couple things coming up. You want to sign up for the email? You want to follow me on IG? Like, that's the entry point. It doesn't, you do not have to bark at them with the price list, with the PDF, like you just said. It's that natural. I mean, how else should you fucking do it? Like, I don't know any way else to do that.
I also think, like, there's certain things that you like as a human. So it's like, you see something, you want that thing, and you have the ability to purchase that thing, you'll do it.
You'll do it later in your sleep.
The work has to create that for somebody. And the only way, in my opinion, you can get to that is working in the studio.
Yeah, I mean, and we spoke about that a lot on our like just studio practice. I think we should probably do a completely separate episode on studio practice
man.
because I think it can get scattered. I think that especially with families, especially with, I mean, I don't have kids, but my studio was daily. It was every day. It was okay. I got to babysit. Let me pop out for 3 hours. I'm coming back. I could stay there till 4 a.m.
Even if it's 30 minutes.
Right. It's like the gym.
30 minutes. It's something better than nothing. I could do an eye in 30 minutes. That's one less thing I got to worry about.
I would just sit in there and smoke weed and just be around it. Do you know what I mean? Because my dad is just like, you the studio. Just because you're not physically drawing or
you're
painting,
doing something right. You're
around it. And I'm like chilling, listening to music. I got my door open. Other people were working. We're chit-chatting. It's like just being around that stuff. And then I could leave. And then maybe later, I'm thinking about something now.
Right. Exactly.
I'm ready to go in at 8 a.m. and I don't even wake up that fucking early. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, that's how it goes. And for people who have their at-home studios, it can get a little like wishy-washy, you can get sidetracked. So and especially with having to film content, that's another layer to make time for and be really intentional about doing. So my next question is, what myths, and this kind of leads into it, what myths do you hear most often from other artists about getting connected or breaking in to the scene, and how would you address them? Maybe with your students, they come in, they're like, how do I get into this scene? How do I get the representation you have? How do I do what you do?
I don't know. I just feel like things just need to happen organically. I don't know what happened that year. It was 2022. I know I had...
tell us about the gallery representation.
I had 4 shows. So after grad school, I told myself, I tell my students this too, you need to set goals.
Yes.
What do you want to do? And how does your work fit into what you want to do? And morally, how do you get to the things that you want to do? So like I told myself I want 6 shows a year. I just picked a random number.
Yeah.
I want 6 shows a year, and I don't want it all in Florida. I want them throughout the country. That is what I wanted to do. I wasn't thinking about internationally yet. I was just like, I need to like have my name at least circulate in some of these like little cities or something.
Yeah.
So I was on call for entry often. So I would print the call for entry, which is like a 50-page thing, and I would circle and highlight the one that I was applying to. And I made sure that when I received the emails, I crossed it out. Right. And if I didn't have number 6 yet, I would apply for other things. But back then it was like $15, $10. Now it's like $35, $50. I'm like, what the hell's going on?
I had a little notebook where whatever I applied to, because I was applying to residencies. That was my goal. I just wanted
didn't work shit.
Yeah. I wanted to go away. I wanted to fucking go to Mexico and just work.
So many years.
I would put 15, 25, and like I had a list, and I capped it at, I remember at 1 year I capped it at $150. How many can I apply for 100? Well, now it's fucking.
That's a budget. That's a goal. Like you have to be
a lot. I wasn't making a lot, and I knew that could have been maybe even like 10 opportunities. To me, yes, that was pretty fucking good.
And then you have to think about shipping. And I remember I would tell my dad, like, oh, I'm applying to this. And he's like, why are you spending your money on that? You should be blah, blah, blah. So he's like not seeing the vision. And I'm just like, Dad, it's not about the money.
Yeah.
It's about showing the work and who is going to show up to the places that are going to see my work. That's all I cared about. I didn't care if I was like selling anything. I was like, I can hustle. Like that's fine. I just wanted my work to be out. And then, so by the time it was 2022, I had like 12, 13, 14 shows that year. And then it got to the point where I didn't have to apply anymore. Like people knew my work because of somebody else who knew my work. And the word of mouth started going. I graduated from undergrad in 2014. My first show, I was in middle school. I've been showing
for mad fucking long. So whoever,
if
you think that this happened to Kandy in 4 years,
people think that
this did not happen, and she has the most aligned representation, that she is very happy with long-term contracts with them, and she feels confident having a long-term contract with them because it's a good fucking relationship. But that relationship was not found overnight. And she didn't have 20 other relationships with galleries before that, in terms of like that you really were barking at to like sign you. You know what I mean?
No. So
That's
in
context.
by 2022, it was the last few months of the year. I would say like September to December. I had 4 shows lined up, and I made it a point to have a show for Art Basel.
Okay.
Every year I needed a December show here in Florida, somewhere, I don't know where.
Yeah.
So I had 4 in Florida, in like the South. And I got hit up that year. I don't know what was happening, by 4 different galleries. And it was all at the same time.
Yeah.
And they're from everywhere. It wasn't like just Florida based. It was like, there
Others.
was one gallery that's super commercial that has like 16 different galleries around the world.
Wow.
But I am very intuitive. And if I get a weird vibe,
Yeah, it's not it.
like my spidey senses, and all you're thinking about is consumerism, I'm
Yeah.
not interested in that at all. Like I'm not here to just produce and
But
make.
you're not walking into situations and you're not networking with and not everyone
No.
needs to be networked with. And that's how you'll burn yourself out and not want to fucking network, period. Because you're just like,
You're exhausted of meeting people. No.
Yeah. And like none of those people helped me, but you went in with the wrong intent. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I just wanted to make work and show the work. So I got an opportunity that I didn't want to do. And I did it because I already committed and I've worked with this person before. And because I did that, he partnered with someone else. And that partner went to Spectrum. I think it was Spectrum. One of the art fair satellites.
Yeah.
They met an art agent. And that art agent was so interested in my work, but she was only here for a few days. And I said, oh, I have 4 shows. You can pick what show you want to go to. And she's like, oh, no, I wanted to come to your studio. And I'm like, I can't. I have, my kids are around. It's December time. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So she's like, okay, well, I'll buy a few of your pieces. She didn't see none of my shit in person. I'll buy a few of your works, and I'm going to send your work to a collector who I think would be interested in your stuff in London. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I was already talking to 3 other galleries about, the way that I work is we have a show and we'll see if it sells. And then if it sells and it goes good, then maybe we'll do representation. And I was like, I don't need somebody to like play with me.
Transactional. That's pretty transactional. Yeah.
I was like, I'm good. But I still had them in my pocket. So I'm just like, okay, whatever. So then the art agent reached back like 2 days later. It's like, I sold that piece. And I'm like, what? She's like, yeah. Can you send me some more pieces? Can you create a PDF of the things that you have available? Thankfully, I document all my stuff and everything is already on my computer. Like I have an Excel file because of my business degree. So everything was laid out. I sent it to her. I talked to my teachers and said, hey, how does this work with an art agent and blah, blah, blah. And then the semester rolled out again. So happy new year, blah, blah, blah. 2023 came along and she's like, oh, I have ACA coming to my gallery. I'm going to show them some of your works. And she had like my little, like 2 or 3 of my little fiber pieces and some watercolors. I didn't do any of research. I'm like in teacher mode.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you have multiple moving pieces happening.
Yeah. There's like, I could do workshops or I could do artist talks. There's the teaching thing that brings me money. Like there's a lot of different things you could do in the arts. So she called me when they went and I was in the middle of teaching. And then she texted me, but I'm in the middle of teaching, so I didn't see anything. So then I went for lunch and I'm like, I have another class, and I check my phone and she's like, Kandy, why are you not picking up my phone? These people are here for 30 minutes and they're gone. And I had 2 minutes left and I'm like, fuck. So then I call her. She doesn't answer. And I was like, damn, they probably left. Let me call again. I usually don't do that, but I'm like, let me see if they're still there. So I called back and they were screaming on the phone. They're like, oh my God, your work, blah, 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 blah. We want to come see you in person. I was like, what you talking about? They're like, we want to come see you in Florida. Are you available next week? And I'm just like, what is going on right now? This is like the 4th gallery. I said, something's up. And by that point, I was selling work on my own.
Right. So it wasn't at the forefront. I mean, there's so many people that glorify representation for the wrong reasons. And they get really stuck up on it. And they think that it's a scapegoat because they don't want to sell themselves. The people who are like, oh, I hate selling, those are the ones that want to pawn it off to someone else and don't end up in shitty situations, because I
But
can't tell you how many
I
shitty.
started selling my work because I needed space. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't have a big storage space at school. They gave me like the small closet. And I'm like, I know people like the work and they comment on the work and they like the work. And I'm like, what am I doing? Like, why am I saving this stuff for? I'm not going to have in my brain, I'm not going to have a retrospective, like, just sell these little watercolors. I was selling them for $25. Sell these watercolors for $25. At least it'll be in somebody's house that somebody likes. And every time I sold, I posted that I sold.
Right.
Marketing. So I'm like, okay. Then more people started seeing the work. And then fiber was something that I was working on. So I was posting the fiber stuff. And then people were interested. Can you do one of me? And I'm just like, this is not going to work. Like, I don't like commissions at all.
Yeah. I can't even envision you doing a commission.
No, I did. And I was like, this is not fun whatsoever.
Because my nostril doesn't look right. And you change the thread that goes around the lens. Yeah.
This is why I couldn't do graphic design either, because I'm like, this looks good to me. Like, why don't you like this? You know what I'm saying? Like, best. So then they came 2 weeks later, and in my brain, I was like, if they were losing their shit with my little watercolors and my little fiber,
I have no idea.
they're really gonna lose their shit when they see my paintings on glass and my huge fiber works.
Yeah.
Because I still had 2 of the 4 shows up.
Right, because your work was spread out, basically.
Yeah. So I took them to the hood to see how they behave, because also it's a white gallery and I'm brown.
Yeah.
So I want to see how that works.
Like, what does that mean to them? And
Yeah. And then I took them to one that had like 2 of my big pieces suspended and 1 little one in that show. Because they haven't seen
about big, so that our audience knows, and of course we'll be tagging you so that they can see what this work looks like. How big were you talking? How big was your work at the time?
8 feet. So it was 8 by 5 feet. That's usually my normal when I'm doing 1 or 2 people. My biggest one is 14 feet now. So I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I'm 5 feet.
Shit.
But they get done.
You got that. And then you're going to start to do Circus Olay.
Oh! Somebody's like, you need an engineer so you can like build this contraption. I was like, yo.
You need one of those mural, what is it called? Like the crank, the thing that goes all the way up and moves you across.
Let me tell you, I would love that.
Oh,
it'll be so much easier instead of me like holding this heavy thing every time I'm like switching up to a new person. But yeah, that's how that happened. And then we were going back and forth for a few months looking over the contract, me getting advice from all the artists that I knew that were signed or consigned to a gallery.
Right.
Trying to listen to their story to see like what worked, what didn't work. And then just like jumping off and being like, well, let's sign for the 3 years and see what happens. And then if it works well, then we'll make it a longer contract. But like, I don't know y'all don't know me.
Yeah.
So let's see how we work. And I really liked them because they were straight up. And I'm very straight up. So like if things are not working, I'll be like, yo, what is that? Explain that to me.
Yeah. Especially with contracts. I mean, when you're networking with people and you're, there's, again, if we go back to sort of like the starving artist mindset, I need this thing. I need this thing. I need this gallery to be with me. And they suck, or their business is kind of scammy, and you're not doing your due diligence of reading up on things and talking to people, and like, that's
having your own inventory.
Right. That's where the networking, how long will they hold on to your work? Because I have a lot of clients in the past who got into some really shitty
a lot of stories, bro.
Contracts, right? And their artwork is still sitting in galleries and not making sales. It's just looking pretty. Yo, that work can look pretty on someone else's fucking white wall. Mm-hmm. There's white walls all over the universe. You know what I mean? There's no one more coveted than the other if your networking is top notch, to be honest. And you sound like that relationship with this gallery, although very reputable, you had a reputable, like you represented yourself in a high esteem way, but it's like you didn't rely on them to lead the situation. And I think that's really important. You were both kind of,
Just like I knew that this is a business.
yes,
And I know that y'all as a gallery, you need to make money. Like I get that.
they have their own, yeah.
I totally understand it, but you're not also gonna be making money and selling my shit to people that are not gonna take care of my stuff. Like that's wild.
Yes, yes.
Or
And the
like,
desperation gets in the way. The desperation gets in the way of wanting
yeah,
to do it so badly. The thing is that this happened to you over what, 15 years or more? 20 years?
yeah, like 25 years.
Yeah. That's the
And people think it's like overnight, like all of it. Where did you come from? Have you seen my CV?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean,
This fucking long.
yeah. Yeah, and now, you could quit other jobs and you could do whatever you want to do, but it's like I think there's always got to be this homeostasis in your life where there's a reality check of like, you know what, this could go really well for the next 40 years of my life, and I could want to do this for the next 40 years, or I could want to have my own retrospective at fucking the Whitney. You know what I mean? Kind of like the Amy Shepherd way.
Right.
All of those things. She put on a beautiful show, but now she's being selective, for her own moral reasons. And that's why I kind of hear your story in the ways that I've read articles on, her declining some major shows and her, not, I mean, that's how.
You have the ability to pick what you want and how you want it. Like, don't let other people dictate where your stuff is gonna be, where like it's now affecting your moral ground. Like, if I don't agree with that company, I'm not showing my shit in that company. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, I think that this is just, I mean, we could go on and on about this networking. It's such an important component to like break it down into the reality of how long it takes for this networking to happen. It's not just going to happen at one.
God, it's so long.
Yeah, because
And it's still happening.
And that's my friendships didn't start yesterday. The person I met at the bar 2 weeks ago does not fucking remember me unless I spoke about something that is memorable.
Mhm.
And then I DM'd them. And then I was like, want to go for coffee. And then you know what I mean? That shit could take months just on one person who.
But there's a lot of artists that are just like not patient. Like they just want the thing right now. And so they fall into the trap, and now you're fucked, and now you're upset because this and that, and oh, my poor life is like, let's breathe a little.
Yeah.
Baby steps, have these plans. Even when I signed with the gallery, I was like, I don't want it from here to here.
Yeah.
I want slow progression. I want to be able to have some control of what is happening for me, but also for my kids. Like I still want to be a present mom.
Yes. Yes.
I still want to be somewhat of a present professor.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that those things don't all happen at the same time. Like there's a balance. I'll have 30% here and the other 70% on this side. But I want to be able to do the things that I want to do. I know that if it went from here to here, I would have lost my shit.
Yeah. And I think that sometimes people are like, oh, this month I didn't focus enough. But every month is going to be different. Just like I made it to the gym 4 times this week, and next week I had things to do, and I made it twice. You know what I mean? Like, it's
sound like me. That's how I am.
Yeah, but that's fucking life. And I'm not gonna beat myself up because my priorities had to change next month. What if I got sick and I couldn't be in the studio for that 70%? It's always going to come in ebbs and flows. And I do also want to say that for those who are like still in that moment of desperation, thinking that they're going to go from A to Z, whether they believe that artists make it by luck or they believe that one person is going to change their lives, I think that it's important, if you do need a job, then you should get one.
Yes.
And I definitely worked my entire art career, you know what I mean? Whether it was teaching art or whether it was still when I had my studio. And at the time, my studio was chump change. It was $325 a fucking month in the hotspot in Brooklyn. And it's like, I was babysitting, I was full-time babysitting. And that's cash under the books. And I was making great fucking money. And I was like, this is what
have a job that doesn't suck you up, where you're so exhausted by the end of the day that you don't want to get in the studio. If you need to have 2 flexible jobs so that you have some time in your day or week to make art, then you have two jobs. And don't have a job where you just survive. You need a job where you can live.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't, it was like I said, it was off the books. It was not something I wanted to give up at the time. I also enjoyed being around kids. It kind of like you're focusing on someone else. So it sort of like took me out, and then I would go home. I didn't have homework. I didn't have extra admin work to do. I wasn't teaching. I didn't have to plan a curriculum. It definitely was just like I got a chance to separate the two, and I knew babysitting would end. There was, and I was ashamed for a long time. Like babysitting was like, I'm this old. I just finished a beautiful career teaching, and now I'm starting again, and blah blah blah. I can't believe.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
But it was, I paid for that studio easy.
Right.
And I was in there easy. It was no sweat off my back to like do something that to me was already in education that came second nature.
Right.
But so we're going to wrap this up. I think that let's end with, let me look at, I have some questions. Have you ever experienced, like for somebody who experiences the imposter syndrome and they're questioning, and they're lacking confidence, insecurity, you're walking into a room, how do you navigate a conversation when you're feeling iffy? How do you suggest that an artist navigate? Maybe it's their first conversation about their artwork. Think about your students, I guess. I think that's probably...
I think just like if you know what your art is about, you should be able to talk about it. I think a lot of, especially my students, the babies, not my seniors. My seniors are already on it because I've been like grooming them to be on it by this point, is finding your voice. Like, what is it that you want to say? What are your interests? Like, what do you get excited about when you're drawing?
Yeah.
It doesn't what kind of characters? Everybody likes illustration, but how is yours different from somebody else's? What are you gravitating towards? Is it the color? Is it the texture? Is it the pattern? Is it the big ass eyes?
Yeah.
Is it, like what are the things that you like? You should know that.
Give everybody the homework assignment. Tell everybody what their homework assignment is for the elevator pitch. You're in an elevator. What did you give tell me again.
You have 50 words, art statement.
Okay. All right, Gil. And if you're in an elevator with some two tough bitches, if you're in an elevator with Miss Liz and Miss Freeman, you have the 1 minute or however it takes for us to get up, and the elevator does not get stuck. We're moving. We're not sitting in the elevator for 2 hours for you to figure it out. Your homework assignment is to figure out how to tell us. We're not talking about you selling to us. We're just talking about you sharing what it is, what you like. Yes. Awesome. Thank you so much. This was dope. I think we need episode 2. We definitely got a lot of topics to talk about. I definitely want to talk about studio practice and how to like manage that, of course, with family, with other things happening, residencies as well. I remember us talking about a residency, you had to kind of turn down at one point. And that was a family thing, but it's like, look at where you are now, man. It's like, and it doesn't stop, right? Your success doesn't determine how many more residencies you can go on. I think that's a whole nother, that's an important topic, because people are like, oh, but I'm selling constantly and I'm in this gallery. But what about having that sanity, that sacred time to just make and not think about selling and not think about IG and not think about family for just a minute, right?
Just sleep, right?
Yeah, just sleep and wake up and be like, oh, I'm on the mountains of blah, blah, blah.
How pretty. Maybe I'll do a painting.
Right? They have all these things in Albuquerque and like whatever, and they have, dream residencies, right? Anyway, thank you so much. And I'll plug you for sure. You can find her, Kandy, on Instagram, and she'll be sharing all her shows and all that stuff, so you'll be able to stay up to date. All right. Peace out, everybody. Bye.
Thanks for listening to another unfiltered episode of Terry Talks. I've also got some free resources on my website that'll help make your life a lot easier as an artist in business. You can also check out my services or apply to work together. Before you go, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and sign up for my newsletter for more art industry information. See you on the gram.